Spoiler alert.
Well, duh.
Kip Guile and Jon Snow. Getting into it right away. These two, who's better in bed? Starting with the 7 categories: origin, development, role, interest, relationships, who would win in a fight, and last, but certainly not least, the point that does not count, the tiebreaker, who wins in each other's world, which I really should switch the tiebreaker to being who would win a fight, because that's the one that matters least, but it's too late now, we're in it, and we're going to use this system to the very end. Origin. These two have essentially the same origin, like, shockingly so. Bastards who are born away from their father, abusive, neglective mother, rejects from their family in a large way, eventually adapted into a group of soldiers that help shape them into the man they're going to be. That is amazingly similar for 2 very different series, but I'm going to go ahead and say that the execution is great for both of them. It's original for both of them in a lot of ways, but I'm going to give a slight edge to Kip because he has a couple more unique aspects to his character, like being overweight is something you almost never see in fantasy, and seeing him overcome that hurdle, and having the mother being abusive to such an extreme degree and not meeting his father until way later in life, so that their interactions together are much more stilted at first, which actually works better to their developing relationship. I'm going to give a very slim edge to Kip Guile for origin here. Next up, we have development, and again, some striking similarities. First and foremost, Kip and Jon both develop in this elite group of soldiers who have one duty, Jon Snow being hold the wall and Kip Guile being save the prism, which they are not good at their job. Overall, I like both of these developments, but I think Kip develops substantially more. Jon Snow is kind of always the de facto great leader, and people just respect him because he's Jon Snow and he has this charismatic presence, but Kip goes from 0 to hero. No one follows him at first. He really builds from the Blackguard, from the bottom rung to the top, being kind of all the way up to the point where his role is getting muggy. So that's actually going to be a point where we get to him, Kip has problems. But when it comes to development, I'm going to give Kip an edge here just because I feel like his character in entirety develops quite a bit more, because Jon Snow suffers a little bit from Mary Sue syndrome for me. Just a Sue. He's a little bit of a Mary Sue. Not to an insane degree like
Quoth,
but just to the point where it bothers me. And now we have role, where Jon Snow shines brightest. He is the Watcher of the Wall, and then the harbinger of the warning of what is coming over the wall, dead people, and the White Walkers and all this stuff. His role is hugely important, and even for the reader, being someone who's really helping bring in the momentum of the terribleness that is coming. I would give Jon Snow a massive leg up when it comes to role, especially since in Lightbringer in the last book, Kip's role is getting a bit muggy. I don't really know where it's going, and yes, his books are not finished, but neither are Jon Snow's, and in their current condition, while this bracket is happening, role is certainly going to Jon Snow, because I don't like mucky roles, it's a mucky role, and yeah, Jon Snow's role is more clearly defined, serves a better purpose for the reader, and I think in Lightbringer, when it comes to role, Gavin/Dazen Guile is really the one who takes the cake here. And now we have interest for the reader. Who's more interesting for the reader? Who is more interesting? So let's talk about it. Jon Snow is interesting because he's really the one who gives you the world beyond the wall. He's the one who introduces you to the real horrors that are coming to invade Westeros. And he is on the side of Daenerys and all these things. It depends how you rank him. Daenerys and Tyrion, they're all kind of switchable is most interesting. So I don't know. He's interesting in himself. Kip, on the other hand, is interesting as well, but he certainly has the spotlight pulled away from him a lot from his father, who at times is certainly more interesting, but Kip himself can also be pretty neat. But it's a series that shifts the spotlight not quite as smoothly as Game of Thrones does when it comes to interest for the reader. I found myself almost getting whiplash while reading Lightbringer in terms of focus. That being said, I do think that Kip might be a bit more of a page turner, just a bit, There's something about his underdog story that just makes you root for him even more, especially in the Blackguard trials and the whole other relationships that are happening around him. You really get to know Kip and the characters around him so intimately in his stories that I found myself more and more wanting to focus on the Blackguard. Whereas with Jon Snow, I could kind of take it or leave it between him, Tyrion, Daenerys. I think Kip is, at this point in the Lightbringer series, the de facto most interesting character, and that tops Game of Thrones' most interesting character in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and give the point to Kip. And now we have relationships. And as many people pointed out last time, when I didn't give Kip the point for relationships, I should have. And I admit I was wrong. I admit he should have gotten it, because his relationship with his father and Andros and his love interest and his secondary love interest and the Blackguard and all these things are remarkably well done. And I just didn't think of it, which I should have when I was doing the video. And then you turn around and look at Jon Snow, someone whose relationships really don't drive his character that much, which is amazing for Game of Thrones. As I've said before, I find relationships to be one of the biggest moving factors for Game of Thrones, but he himself is one of these standout characters who it's much more a self-centered story where, yes, the relationship with his family are very important, but because he's a harbinger of what's becoming from behind the wall, often the relationships suffer with him because you focus more on that other aspect of this world rather than the relationships. And while I do think there is nothing wrong with Jon Snow's relationships, I just think because that shift of focus with him very often is happening, Kip, who is a lot more relationship oriented, is going to go ahead and take this point, especially because of Kip's two most important relationships with Andros Guile and the Blackguard, which you have not read Lightbringer. The Blackguard alone is a good enough aspect to go ahead and pick it up. So this point as well goes to Kip! And now we have, who would win in a fight? Who would win in a fight? Pretty clearly Kip. Jon Snow's good with a sword, can apparently come back to life, but overall, Kip is a turtle bear. Kip is a turtle bear, and you can't stop the turtle bear. Kip has 7 forms of Luxon at his disposal to utterly obliterate Jon Snow, or 6, I don't know the count, and it's been a while since I read Lightbringer, but he has a lot of Luxon at his disposal to throw in combat and probably take down Jon Snow fairly handily. I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to take it for the fight as well. So now, Kip wins, but let's do the tiebreaker because it's going to be fun. Jon Snow might do fairly well in the Lightbringer world. He's charismatic, he's smart, he saw what happened to his father when he got involved in political stuff, so he might be kind of wary and willing to watch his back. So doing decently compared to Kip, whose power levels compared to anything else we've seen in Game of Thrones is so next level, he would probably be a near god level to them. It wouldn't be much of a competition. He could just be the strongest entity in the Game of Thrones. Probably even a dragon killer, because he killed gods or participated in killing gods. So I don't think killing a dragon would even be that hard for him, especially with his turtle bear get up. That's quite the edge. That's quite the leg up. It's quite the leg up. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the final point to Kip as well. And there's going to be some angry Game of Thrones people that are going to be upset. Jon Snow, the big bad dog from Game of Thrones, is not in the tournament anymore. And there's going to be boo-boo. And there's going to be boo-boo. And there's going to be boo-boo. There's going to be people who are upset that Jon Snow's already out. That's fine. I don't care.
Just kidding.
But if you're going to leave a snotty comment, please at least back it up with facts, not just calling me idiot scum. Which I'm not upset that someone called me that, but put more effort into trying to insult me. Put some kind of thought behind it.
Eat some shit, you.
I don't know. That's pretty much it. That's my Kip versus Jon Snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow video. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful conclusion to your week. Like and subscribe if you have not already. You can't tell, I'm tired today and just want this video to kind of be done. Like, I'm done. Let's wrap it up. And like and subscribe, hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. And have a good day. Peace.